have non-stop information on the election results in a specially extended edition of Good Morning Scotland from 6 all the way through to 9 o'clock. John Milne and Derek Bateman are in our Glasgow studio, and Isabel Fraser is at Calton Hill in Edinburgh to bring you the remaining results, analysis of results declared overnight and reaction from senior political figures. All the rest of the day's news too, plus travel and sport, but I think we can safely say it's the election that's taking centre stage this morning. You'll find Radio Scotland on 92 to 95 FM and 810 medium wave. This is BBC One Scotland, and here's Michael Fish with the weather forecast.
Good morning to you. I think all the people working on those elections, me too, come to that, probably going to be in the best place before long, and that's bed, because there is some pretty wet weather on the way as these weather fronts come up from the southwest, wet and fairly windy too. We've had the rain gathering during the night, 2 or 3 bands of it already working northwards, and this one down here is quite a heavy one too. In fact, there are some rumbles of thunder mixed in the channel. That rain continues to march steadily northwards across the country, or at least most parts of the country today, remaining areas during tonight. Then there's a little bit of a lull, some showers, then another area of rain coming along for tomorrow. So a weather watch for heavy rain in Wales, central and southern England, with those downpours causing some localised nasty conditions if you're out and about. The rain already into southwestern parts, as we've just seen from the radar picture. That rain moving up further north, coming up to London and around the middle of the morning, late morning, up towards Manchester, into Northern Ireland at the same time. Remaining quite grey along those eastern coasts, but it is, I think, parts of Scotland will probably have the driest and the brightest weather, but eventually the rain will even move up into northern England, into southwest Scotland, allowing somewhat brighter weather, although with 1 or 2 showers, to come into much of Ireland, South Wales, and a good part of southern England. It is surprisingly going to be warm once the weather brightens up, and even where it doesn't in the south, 17 or 18 degrees, staying pretty cool though along those eastern coasts. During this evening and tonight, the rain continues to move northwards into Scotland, broken cloud following along behind, a fairly mild night everywhere. That's all from me for now.
This is BBC One Scotland. Good morning if you've just joined us. Extended bulletins with updates on the elections from the Reporting Scotland team today. The first one's at 6:25.
The people of Scotland wake up this morning to discover just who will run their new parliament, the first in Scotland for nearly 300 years. Good morning and welcome to Breakfast News from Scotland. The makeup of the new Parliament is now becoming clear. Donald Dewar looks certain to become First Minister, with Labour the biggest party but without enough members to control the Parliament outright. And in Wales, counting begins in just over 3 hours. The early suggestion is that Labour may fail to win an overall majority and their leader Alan Michael may not get elected.
And good morning from London. In the English local elections, the Tories have gained more than 1,000 seats. Labour have lost ground, with the Liberals taking control of Sheffield. And one other headline, Yugoslavia agrees to allow a team of UN humanitarian officials into Kosovo.
Well, good morning. The makeup of the first Scottish Parliament for almost 3 centuries is now becoming clear. Labour, as I say, are the biggest party but are unlikely to get enough seats to give them overall control. A deal with the Liberal Democrats would then be on the cards. So here's the picture so far. With 92 MSPs now elected, the Labour Party have 52 seats, SNP are on 19, Lib Dems have 15, the Conservatives 5, and others hold 5 seats. 2 seats rather, beg your pardon. The final BBC forecast gives Labour 57 seats, that's short of the 65 they need for an overall majority. The SNP 34, the Conservatives 19, Liberal Democrats are on 17, and the others 2. The Scottish Labour leader Donald Dewar paid tribute to his party's former leader. John Smith, he said, would have been proud to see what's been happening today. Well, our political correspondent Carol Walker has been looking back at the night's events.
I declare that Tom McCabe is elected.
Labour's Tom McCabe became the first person to be elected to the first Scottish Parliament in almost 300 years, just an hour and a quarter after the polls closed. It was, he said, a very significant achievement. Labour is on course to be the largest party in the new Parliament, but without an overall majority. There was embarrassment for the Labour hierarchy in Falkirk West. Dennis Canavan, a left-wing member of the Westminster Parliament, pulled off a remarkable victory. Rejected by the party's selection panel, expelled for standing as an independent, he beat the official Labour candidate by more than 12,000 votes. He said the brilliance of his victory was tinged with sorrow, that he was not a member of the party in which he was virtually born and brought up.
I do hope that some reconciliation might be possible, as long as there is an understanding that on my part there will be no compromise on the principles and policies which I have always held dear and which I used to think that the Labour Party also held dear.
Donald Dewar, the Scottish Secretary, went to his party's campaign headquarters in Glasgow, clearly relieved at having won his seat and taken a step closer to becoming Scotland's First Minister. Earlier, he said the election heralded the birth of a new Scotland.
The first 6 words of the Scotland Act read simply, "There shall be a Scottish Parliament," and with those 6 simple words, Scottish politics are forever changed. And I am proud that my party, and I am proud personally, to be associated with that change.
But Labour's share of the vote was down in many traditional strongholds. The new voting system meant electors cast 2 votes, so some members were directly elected and others won seats from the top-up party lists. The top-up system gave Tommy Sheridan, left-wing firebrand leader of the Scottish Socialist Party, a seat. He's vowed to fight for the redistribution of wealth. The Liberal Democrat Scottish leader Jim Wallace won his Orkney seat by a huge majority. Already there are questions as to what sort of deal might be brokered for Labour and the Lib Dems to form a coalition to control the new Parliament.
I certainly take the view that first and foremost we should negotiate the terms of a partnership programme for government and then deal with ministries and personalities. Although I rather suspect that over this weekend there's going to be lots of speculation about personalities, but at the end of the day it's more important what we actually achieve.
Several hours later than expected, the Scottish Nationalist leader Alex Salmond won his seat in Banff and Buchan. This was, he said, the dawn of a new era in Scotland, and his party would be a powerful group in the Scottish Parliament.
Each and every one of us who has had the privilege to be elected to it has a heavy burden of responsibility to make sure that Parliament works well for Scotland, builds the confidence of the Scottish people, and takes this nation on to national freedom and independence. Thank you very much.
The Conservative leader in Scotland, David McCletchie, failed to win his seat in Edinburgh Pentlands on another disappointing night for the Tories north of the border. He put a brave face on it, still hopeful of Tory prospects through the top-up system.
There's no first and second class members. What people are looking for in the Parliament are effective advocates of party policies, and that's what they're going to get with me and the colleagues who will be joining me on the Scottish Conservative benches.
Votes are still being counted, but the likely outcome sets the scene for some long negotiations, with the Liberal Democrats demanding an end to tuition fees as a key price for coalition with Labour to control Scotland's new Parliament. Carol Walker, BBC News, Glasgow.
Joining us now from the Labour Party headquarters is our political correspondent David Porter. What's the mood down there, David?
Sally, one very much to satisfaction. The view amongst the number crunchers here at Delta House in Glasgow is that our estimates on the poll that we've been giving this morning are very much in line with what Labour are thinking. So we are dealing with a new era of politics, not just for a Scottish Parliament, but also we're going to be dealing with coalition politics as well. Labour, the single largest party, but not large enough to have an outright majority, so they will need the Liberal Democrats and the help of Liberal Democrats if they're going to govern and get that majority.
Has there been disappointment there that Labour's vote has been down in their safe seats?
This election's been a bit surprising in that seats that Labour thought that they perhaps wouldn't win and seats that they thought that some of the other parties would have won haven't gone like that. There was bitter disappointment, I've got to say, at the victory for Dennis Canavan. I think everyone here knew that Dennis Canavan was in with a very good chance of winning that seat, and indeed all throughout yesterday they were on the telephones from here canvassing voters very, very hard. But bitter disappointment at the side of Dennis Canavan's victory, but very great, I suppose the only way you can say is joy that Labour managed to hold on to Govan. I think that was a seat that secretly they were thinking that they might not hold on to. There was a very strong SNP challenge there with a very high-profile candidate from the SNP, Nicola Sturgeon. There was a very, very big cheer when the Govan result came through in the early hours of the morning.
And all the talk there, presumably, of coalition deals, what way do they reckon that Donald Dewar will be jumping today?
Well, publicly at least, and indeed Donald Dewar, when he arrived here a little bit earlier, said that they were not actually thinking about that at the moment. They will wait till all the results are coming in. And what we're seeing at the moment is on the first